lot of the inner and outer hind tests, but we didn't get through all of them. So we should do more. And did we canter yesterday?
Not on purpose.
Not on purpose. And is there anything, I forget now, is there anything we wanted to make sure we covered today? I, in my own mind, was like, oh yeah, we got to do those other tests. But was there anything else we said, or you just wanted to continue?
I just want to continue the stepping pattern.
Yeah, good. Okay, great. Nice. So we're still in the cool of the day, which is good for her since, yeah. All right, so one real small detail that we started to talk about, it's a small detail, but it's an important detail, and that we here use the leg in conjunction with the whip. So the whip is always over the thigh, and it's ready, because that actually walk forward and stop with the profile to Kevin's camera, because it'll be, are you getting taped right now? Okay. Yeah, so turn and profile, so I can just put this on his, yeah, so this is good. So if you're, hold the whip on the left side, a couple small details you're going to find out. First of all, if your whip is over your thigh, you'll notice that, look what a nice job that does positioning your hand. That's absolutely the perfect angle for your hand. And this wrist is soft. Your elbow's in the perfect spot. It's soft here. Elbow's soft. Wrist is soft. Fist is closed like you have it, but not clenched. So you have your fist can take, give, take, release. Your whole fist, take, give, take, release. Like that kind of change, you know, in rhythm of, we'll work with things like that. And then this over the thigh, notice it's right here, right behind your leg. So we say the second leg pressure should never be ignored. So your leg coats the horse. Oh my God, aren't you tired already? That's a lot of leg on her.
She's wide.
Oh, so it's like a spring effect, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, I hope I'm not hurting you then.
Nope.
But, you know, if you can, yeah, she's wide. Whoa. Yeah, so the idea that that would be better as your neutral, because there's a famous author that you might know, Eric Herberman. Do you know him? He writes a lot about the horse too, and he says that the legs should feel like a wet newspaper on a horse in its neutral phase. Wet newspaper would be, you know, kind of clinging but not pressing, you know, and that's where we want to be with her, ideally. But of course, if you know, it's a stretch. But then, if you have that lighter leg, then you can press, firm, release, press, firm, release. And if she doesn't respond to that, on that second leg pressure, you're here starting nicely like you did yesterday with a little bit of tap, 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 tap. You know, it can grow in that crescendo. And then in Vienna, the philosophy is the stirrup pressure is the finest aid.
Yeah.
So in order to expand the range of the finest aid, you want to, if possible, not distribute a lot of weight down through your, like, bang, default like this in the...
As neutral.
As a neutral, you see? Okay. So they would say a stiff breeze would knock your stirrup. Of course, they don't have their grippy soles like we do.
That makes sense, but
yeah.
As being, you know, when you're riding, for example, hunters,
yes.
They want you to cram your heels down all the time.
Exactly.
So
It's a contradiction. And so if you've done hunters, you want to erase that. If you're looking to old muscle memory, right. Look how much nicer your leg is. Because what happens when the heels cram down, a deep heel is a good heel if you can, first of all, when it's in application, of course, you know, so say in the canter, you know, you have a rich, deep outer heel as the horse is coming into a pirouette and you're supporting it. That's a gorgeous position to do, you know, that shows strength in the rider's position. However, you know, it's fine to have the heel just a tiny bit below the toe. It's really not the same emphasis in this case to have the deep heel as a good thing. Also not to ride off your toes, that's not good either. This is a nice length stirrup for you. I think, as long as it allows you to have a certain lightness in the stirrup. And then you can vary from, you know, a lighter to a more pressure to a more pressure, you know. And I like that you never changed anything above. You just really it's not a gas pedal thing. It's more that you just let weight drop through. You know, it just like, just falls through into the ground. Yeah. And Carl always loves to talk about how when the horse's hoof hits the ground, it's here. Whoops, let me get that out of the way. When the horse's hoof hits the ground, it's here. But via the help of the rider, if you step simultaneously, it sinks. Do you see the difference? From here to here, you know? So you're helping the horse make a deeper imprint into the ground by holding him there a millisecond longer. You're sustaining the time he's on the ground by just a fraction of a second, and you're adding more weight. And adding more weight with the horse means you're shifting the horse's weight around in accordance to what you think is best, or you're looking for the best, you know, combination. So these are finer points that, you know, now that you know there are patterns, you can play with what is neutrality. Neutrality is a stiff breeze would knock it off. And that would mean that the weight comes a little bit more through your whole leg versus just on the foot into the stirrup. Because when you do that, and you turn the toe out, whoa, that's like major constant pressure on the mare. And we don't want that. We want the softness as much as you can afford without paralyzing your hips to wrap around her. But be there all the way up, you know, as much as possible. I'm not saying, you know, you have to follow her all under her belly like we would say Sam's legs could do. I'm not expecting that, you know, like my wear on my boot comes down maybe. You know, it's just as much as you can, follow her. And then keeping this, so this allows nearby, and that's on the other side for the trot, and on the canter, good to have the whip to the outside as a general guideline, but not a steadfast rule. Nice, and just see if there's anything else that's important to mention while I have you here. That's good, go ahead and walk around, and you can flip the whip back to the right. All right, so maybe a good thing to do together. Will she go on the lunge line for a minute? Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, good. She's game. Oh, yeah. What am I getting into? Yeah. That's good. We'll give you the dog leash. Watch over. Okay. Now, why? Because I can help you. I want to get to these other tests because I want to put them all on your tape. And that way we can start to play and introduce and weave them into stepping, and you know, because they're really nice tools for even if you're on the trail with her, you know, it's great. Oh, you're such a beauty. So normally you put this over her head, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll do that because we don't need to put a capstan on her. She's such a stoic mare, isn't she? She's kind of got a regal look about her. Okay. Yes, what are we doing? All right, so this way we can keep a real steady diameter. Because remember, the ring figure works the horse, right? And so the more your accuracy can enter into what you're riding, you can have a better way to evaluate how your horse is doing. And we'll talk about that in a moment. All right, so I'm going to walk with me to the center line and start to walk around me on this smaller circle. Now, in days of this early explorations of riding, the riding masters, you can try to keep this line taut. The riding masters of the day, so see if you can ride the same quarter each quarter. So the riding masters of the day, they did not measure so much by meters what the size of a volte should be. They went instead to a custom way of thinking, and they said that the volte, the smallest volte that, and what's your mare's name? Nika? Stella, that's right, Stella. The smallest volte that Stella should ever ride is 3 strides per quarter. So that way, rather than say, oh, 10 meters, every horse, straight out. No, they said 3 strides per quarter is custom made for her. Because if she goes smaller, it's too much stress on her inner hind. So this 3 stride per quarter volte changes as she becomes more collected. The volte actually shrinks. But right now, in a working walk like you have, she has the inner hind bearing the weight. 1, 2, 3. That was the first quarter. 1, 2, 3. That was the second quarter. Oops, I kind of got messed up there. 1, 2, 3 is the third quarter. 1, 2, 3 is the fourth quarter. So if you did 3 strides per quarter, you have a 12 stride volte, and you can kind of calibrate that when you're riding it. If you start with 3 and you're not halfway through your volte, you know you need to make an adjustment. Certainly if it's less, if you're farther than a quarter, you need to make it bigger. If you're not quite a quarter, you need to diminish the line. So I just wanted to put that out there. And walk, trot, and canter, it's the same. You can canter a 12 stride volte. It'll be a different size than her walk. But you'll notice just walking this line, she's starting to find her bend. And people shy away from voltes, but they shouldn't really, because they're good tools for softening the horse, especially at the walk. Because when you look at the constant turning of your horse on this line, she's making nice compression of her hip, her hock, and her stifle to meet this requirement. And you're starting to get a benefit, do you feel, of her following this line?
Yep.
And it's a good setup for a shoulder in later. So, but you'll notice too, you can enlarge the line. So that was, which test yesterday did we learn? That was the first test of the inner hind, right? Enlarging?
That was the last one we did.
Oh, okay, okay, so enlarging is really the first test of the inner hind, and that's in the air. So let's start to enlarge her. Each time you pass the center line, you could enlarge her. So start to move her off your right leg and enlarge, good, and give her a moment. And then the next center line, you'll let her do it again. So you went out 1 horse's width. Get ready, here comes the next center line. In, large. And so this, just like I showed you for going forward, when I say go forward, both legs go on the horse and she should go with the first leg pressure, then the second leg pressure is assisted by the whip. Same thing going sideways. The horse should enlarge and the leg comes on, and then the whip assists if she doesn't get the message that she should move sideways. So, she's kind of, you feel her wavering? So do the best you can to keep her out on the line and keep her off your inner leg, good. And then, nice, good, excellent. So keep her out, keep the line out, and then when you get to the center line, you can go out even one more time. So starting on a smaller volte and enlarging gives you the first test of the inner hind. Now, that's basically, what every young horse should learn, one of the first things they should learn. Now, what we didn't cover yesterday was engaging. That's the second test of the inner hind, and that is when the inner hind crosses over and takes the haunches out, but the forehand stays on this nice line you're riding right now. So her right front foot should not leave this line of this the radius that we've just made here. And it'll be like a leg yield on a circle. She'll put her haunches out, yes, and put your whip over your thigh, because the second leg pressure should never be ignored. And you might need your left rein to keep her from speeding up or from, so good, her haunches go to the outside. So you can touch her with the whip. And if she speeds up, you can use your first test of the outer hind to hold her in a walk, because you don't want her getting quick. You want her haunches to swing out. Does she know a shoulder in?
I don't think so.
You don't know. Okay. Well, we could see if we could get her to do this. So if she moves away from you and me, and if you just keep your left, you could hold the left rein, give. Hold the left rein, give. And it's a bit of a leg yield where the haunches swing out. So let me try to come closer. You stay walking. There, like this, okay? That is the start of the idea that see how her forehand is on this line and her haunches go to the outside. I don't want to do anything that she's not normally doing, so we'll leave that. But, you know, I don't want to go to a place where she's uncomfortable, but because I don't know what her normal routine is. But anyway, so that engaging question where the haunches go on a different line of travel, she'll go on a bigger circle with her haunches and her forehand. So that is called engage, and it's the second test of the inner hind. Now, you did enlarge, you did engage. So the old masters would say, if you do those two things, you need to then trot. You need to do the third test of the outer hind, which is to go forward. So as you go over the center line, let's let her trot a few circles. So get ready, inner hind, 2, trot on, trot, trot. Good. So, nice.
Go over that again.
Yeah.
Am I engaging? Am I enlarging, and then going forward?
Yes. We were enlarging. You could do that. You could enlarge, and then go forward. You could enlarge, engage, you know, so either way, and then go forward. Because you should, the formula they gave, but it's made just as a suggestion, is twice to move the horse under himself and then let the horse use what you put under that center of gravity and send him forward. So that's the idea of that. So it's on your tape. That's good. Nice. So walking on. So again, when she walks on, it should be leg, leg whip. So she goes forward, right? And so she should be tuned into, you know, the lightest touch of the leg, you know, that she goes forward so the rider doesn't have to work so hard. This is built into the training of the horse from the very beginning. I mean, it's a result of the horse being started on the lunge in front of the whip. So you'll see you're between, Anna, look, you're between me, I have your hand, my hand on her bit, and I have my whip to her croup, so she's between my aids. That's how the horse starts without the rider. Then the horse gets the rider, and they're still reliant on the ground person sending the horse forward from the whip. And then later, the rider takes over that responsibility, and the leg takes over the whip's activity, but the whip is there to support the activity. So get ready. So from the earliest phase, the horse understands that the whip is not to be feared, but respected. So when you're ready, plan. Remember, we planned our exercises, and then we executed the exercise, and then we reviewed. So plan your move off into the trot with the right hind on the ground. Get ready to enlarge. You can do that. Yep, enlarge. Good. Okay. Good. Nice. Whee. She says, I have to throw in a canter. Forward is good in any way, right? But the most important thing is that you go forward, right? So keep her in a steady tempo forward, because that is also a good way for Stella to have a strong, happy, healthy life, is to learn to go forward at a steady tempo in both directions equally. And so if you feel her waning, you could quietly use your leg whip, and see if she'll stay at a steady tempo. Because remember yesterday we were walking lines and we were saying steady line, steady tempo, steady contact. And those three things make for a well-going horse. And so, you know, there are concepts that are reinforced again and again. You got to get all that dust out. Looks nice. All right, so now I'll give you another little thing because she likes to canter. You can set up the canter using tests with the inner and outer hind. Okay, so they are to switch now to the secondary diagonal, or the one that you're usually calling the wrong diagonal. So the right front, there. This is called secondary diagonal because it's not united in the canter right. It's ununited, but it lets you do a few things. Because if you think about it, aren't you sitting on the right front right now? And the left hind? Which hind leg is in the air when you're sitting down? The inner. The inner's in the air, which is free for you to do the first and second tests of the inner hind, really. So you could enlarge when you sit down in the rising trot. Enlarge. Correct. Try not to click. Good. Yeah, so it's hard to stay on the wrong diagonal, isn't it? It's drilled into your head. But anyway, a couple things you can enlarge. And then could you use your left rein and weight down your left stirrup and tell her to slow down. Good girl, nice. So you see you did the first test of the outer hind because you did the left rein, left hind on the secondary diagonal. So switch back again one more time. So that, good. So you could say enlarge from the inner leg, which is nice. And follow that with slow down to the outer hind. Slow down, good, but keep her trotting. And then you're going to canter. So enlarge, slow down, and canter. Good girl. So that is the classical way to ask for the canter depart. I know she likes them anyway, and she gives them to you as a freebie, but you can quietly prepare her for the canter, and you'll know when you're going to get it, and she'll take a balanced canter. Let's let her come back down to T-R-O-T. Good, good, nice. The reason we call it, now you're on the main diagonal. This is the main diagonal because it's the same diagonal she shares with the canter. So that's the one that's on the ground when your seat rocks forward in the canter. Let's slow her down. You can put weight, left, left, right, and then just let her be. Left, left, right, and let her be. Good, good, nice. How's this feeling? Oh, it's a little better. Yeah, let's let her go the other way. Did that make sense? Yes. Yeah. So those are nice tools for, I know she likes to canter, and she just takes it. She's a delightful mare. But if you want say you're putting her in a test and you want to hit the marker to get the canter, you can prep it that way. You can abbreviate it, and it can happen pretty fast in really 4 strides or 3 strides, or even 2. You could almost do it. So, what a good girl. We should go the other way and even you out. So we'll come back this way. So that was nice. We'll do the same process. We'll do 12-stride volte, the smallest volte she should walk. We'll let her feel it. Now to the left. And then we'll enlarge her gradually. And then we will also try a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of the second test of the inner hind, which is a little bit of a stretch for her because she's not really schooled in those things. We don't want to make her sore or anything, but I do want to just show you the concept for other horses you ride. And then I forgot to show you the third test of the outer hind, which we'll go through that too. But again, if she's not doing a lot of lateral work, but I'll show you how to approach it on a horse. So go ahead and come walk her on and pass me, and then track to the right, and then come to the left around me. Good. And you're not going to go far because we're going to do this 12-stride volte again. And she's easier this way, huh? A little bit. So, good girl. Yeah, and so you find the 12-stride volte that you... Yeah, so start at the center line. If you start at a center line, you won't get lost. So passing C, you could do the first step of the inner hind. 1, there we go. 3, 1, 2, 3. Here comes the center line. 1, 2, keep turning. 3. It's quite demanding, isn't it? Yeah. But 1, 2. So there's the idea of it. So you don't want to overload the horse, but you should condition your horse, especially if you have a horse that's going to learn collection, to come on the volte and get strong in these moments because the shoulder in is made of work on the volte. It's absolutely a perfect place to train a horse. A volte does not have to be 12 strides. It can be more. This is just the smallest one she should walk. Okay. So go ahead and start to enlarge her. That's when the inner hind is on the ground. I'm sorry, in the air. And you enlarge. You could say like that. And you feel her step out and begin again. So you give her a moment. Next center line. Yeah, very good. And good girl. Nice. Keep her straight so that she just doesn't endlessly drift through your left aids, So you want her to move out, but you want her to move out only as much as you wish. You don't want to lose control of her because you're sending her out. But she's certainly softer this way, isn't she? Yeah, nice, nice. And so your partnership of inner leg, sending the horse out, enlarging, can be helped with the whip if needed, because you might notice that she hangs her hip back on one side or the other, or maybe the shoulder moves slower and the hip goes out faster. That was better. I like that one. That was good. And always returning to a nice neutral spot between your questions so that she's not feeling a constant choking leg, you know? Because the whole idea is to create a certain lightness between you and the horse so that she doesn't feel like she's being, you know, like, she's being muscled around. Because the partnership looks better when the horse is relaxed. That's sort of one of the key elements of the Viennese school is they want their horses to be relaxed. And in order to have relaxation, the horse has to understand and think with the rider. So the horse is alive in its mind and it's thinking with you. And your aid comes on and goes away because you've shown her what it is you'd like in a way that helps her perform the task. So as she understands it, things will get easier and easier. Where's she going here? Something's catching her eye. Oh, who's leaving? Come on. Good girl, good girl. So you could talk to her, put weight into the right front and see if you could ask her to come down, to, halt, right front, halt, and walk around. Good girl, good girl. And walking, good. And now you could talk to her left front and ask her to halt into the left front. You could say, left front, to, halt, halt, halt. Good girl, and walk around. Leg, leg whip. Good. And now you could go to the left hind, and you could use the height of your seat and say, left front, left hind, to, halt, halt, halt. Good. And then you could walk around. And then you could use your outer rein to the outer hind, which is the first test of the outer hind, and say outer hind to, halt, 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 halt. Good. And then you could walk around. And then you could use the outer front again and put weight down the right front and say outer front, to, halt, halt, halt. And so you start to think with her, right? So she shouldn't, leave you and then, it's not like you have to do anything drastic. Some horses, people have often very big reactions when the horses leave them. But if you learn to quietly connect with your horse, horses are entitled to, wander in their thinking, but you can bring them back with these small communications that are quite discreet that can keep the horse engaged, balanced, and even create a better activity for the horse within their work, because you could do all those things you just did within the shoulder in, say, Okay, so now, what is the second test of the inner hind? That would be her shoulders stay on this line and her haunches go to the outside. You want to try it? She might do it this way more readily.
Enlarge, and then I half halt. Or do I half halt and enlarge at the same time?
If you could, you could. Yes, yes and yes. Yes, you can separate them, and yes, you can do them at the same time. If you feel it, if you can get it to work at the same time, more power to you. But generally, when you're learning them, it's nice to separate them and see how well the horse does one and then the other, because sometimes it's a little confusing to the horse to feel both at once. So think first, enlarge. Good. And now the outer hind. Good. Now you could, so she did the first test of the inner hind. Nice. And she did the slow down on the outer hind. Now, could you do the second test of the inner hind, which is haunches out on the circle? And so her forehand will stay on this line, and you can, yes, you might have to kind of tickle her with the whip, and I can help hold her forehand on the line because this line will be a given. And just for a quarter circle, it won't hurt her to try to drop her hip, and nice. So this is getting closer to what you're after with the second test of the inner hind. Her haunches go to the outside. And then now we just did these tests. It's good to go forward. So ask her to enlarge again and make the circle a little bigger. And let's go ahead and trot her on the line. So, trotting on from the left hind. Nice, nice. And the trot, you want to have equal strides per quarter. So I'm moving you a little bit so the camera can see easily. You could make, in the trot on this large circle, exactly the same symmetry that you did in the volte, only larger. So you could say, you could count your strides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, keep going. 2, keep trotting. 3, 4, 5, 6. Anyway, go rising for a minute. Let's see if we can make each quarter exactly the same with a nice working trot, because we did it the other way. See how she wants to drop my line on the ground? So there. See if you can keep that taut but not take me down the line with you. So good. This is better. Better. Right. Now you're getting a nicer feel. Yeah, I know. It's not easy for the horse either. Get ready. I'll count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You just rode a 6 stride per quarter circle. That is absolutely perfect. And typically, that is exactly a 20-meter circle. If you went home, see this arena's wider? Look at how nice she's going. This is an example, Anna, of how the ring figure works the horse. You see? You rode her forward at a steady tempo on a perfect line, and the contact becomes absolutely excellent. So this is why we start horses in this fashion, because they learn a perfect 20-meter circle in both directions with perfect use of their body. And that's why the Spanish riding school is married to this idea that the horse learned to go forward on the lunge, despite all cowboys that think the horse should be started in a round pen or whatever. You know, this was their good girl. So we'll give her a minute, and then we'll do the canter. Did you feel that, though? It was quite nice. It was a beautiful, beautiful picture. Now, when we do canter, I'll just talk to you about this. There are moments in the canter that I'd like you to focus on, because she likes to canter, and, you know, and I have you right here so I can tell you about it. So, remember we're saying this funny thing, main diagonal, secondary diagonal. And the shared diagonal is the main diagonal, and the one that's not shared in the canter is the secondary, which is, in this case, the inner front, outer hind. Those are unshared canter diagonals. But in this direction, the main diagonal, I'd like you to pay attention to that when you're cantering. When your seat rocks forward, that's when the main diagonal is on the ground. So if you start to talk about the canter from back to front, which is generally how we approach the canter when we're working it, back to front, what's the last part of the canter, would you say, in this direction? Inner front on the ground. The left front on the ground would be the last step of the canter. The middle phase is the diagonal pair, the inner hind, the outer front. That's when your seat rocks forward. And the first phase of the canter is when the horse comes up on the outer hind. And the way you can tell that when you're sitting on the mare is her mane will fly up for that instant.
Is that the canter departure?
Yeah, right at that moment. Mm-hmm. And then when you're in the canter, that'll keep repeating, of course, because it's like every stride is another depart. So as she lifts, you'll see the mane fly up. And so there are things you can do at all those moments. So I'll just tell you right now, because we'll let her walk for a minute, and then we'll do some things. So one of the things, like I said, we start working the canter at the end of it, at the end of the phase, which is when the left front lands. So you could quietly do what we call first degree flexion bending on the left front hitting the ground, which would be to release her stiffness. If there's any, you could flex, 2, 3. That's the left front hitting the ground. That's called first degree bending. Left front hits the ground. Yeah, that's correct. And so, but you know what? Horses often stop because anytime their mouth gets touched, like, oh, that's a halt. They throw on the brakes. But they should learn that not every time that the bit is touched is a transition down, that it can mean to soften and release to that, right? So she should learn to work through that if you want to help her become the softest horse she can be, and no matter what she does. Even if she's a trail horse, you could ask her to flex, give, flex, give, flex, give. And generally, I'm telling you all the secrets. All horses like 3s and 6s. The old masters in the book that Ladine was reading last night discovered that there is a harmony with the horse. They like 3, they like 6. For some reason, that's what they like. So if you use the suppling and you say flex, 2, 3, that helps the horse soften. And then you give him a break for 3 strides. And so you relax, 2, 3. And so there's kind of a breathing in it. It has a certain flow to it, doesn't it? Because they work, they relax, they work, they relax. That is the classical school. It's set up so that the horse learns that there's a rhythm to what they do. They work hard, and then they get a break. So not only are the immediate exercises on the horse's back set up that way, but we set up our arena that way. Like we do a working corner, a resting corner. A corner where there's a volte, a corner where there's no volte, say. So we try to classically construct things so that the horse has the fair advantage of the work not overburdening them. Okay, so we're going to canter. So we'll set it up the way we did the other side. You're going to enlarge the line, and if she knows how to canter from the walk, you could do it from the walk. You could enlarge. Yeah, very nice. And then, and then your outer leg should be behind the girth quietly, and the enlarging should send her over to the right. And then your right rein and the height of your seat can connect to the outer hind, and you could slow down, and then she should lift into the depart. Good girl, like that, you see? Every horse does it. Every horse knows it, just because of the common sense of it. Nice. And so you feel the end of the canter stride first, which is now. Your left knee drops. And what could you do? You could do first degree bending, flex, 2, which she might, that's okay. She might have thought, let's let her walk for a minute. She might have thought that's a half halt. Maybe I should stop. And it takes some time for the horse to understand when you touch their mouth, don't break, But,
I do have a request. Can we work on the feeling when the canter departure should happen, the
Yeah.
first stage?
Yeah,
Can we just call that?
sure.
Because I get on, when I start cantering, I go like, and I go on vacation.
Okay, that's no problem. So you want the moment of the depart, right?
Yes, the first stage. We can identify the first stage.
Like the right hind on the ground.
Sorry?
The outer hind on the ground, you mean? Or,
Is that the canter departure?
yeah, the outer hind on the ground, yeah. Let's work on that. So you feel it, I'll call it out. Now. Good. You see? That would be when and it depends on what the horse wants. If she's an ultra-sensitive horse and you two are really together, you can just almost hold yourself still for that instant, and she'll know that's the half halt, Yeah, you don't have to, you don't have to override. Sam, Deb's daughter, was playing the whole day yesterday with not overriding on her horses, the youngest and the oldest. Because the common thing for a rider to do is use way more than they need. The horse knows these things often, and it's our job to explore how much is really necessary. But when you're learning that this is the sequence, sometimes it's easy to overdo things. But really explore, because Stella and you have a pretty good relationship, it might not take a whole lot. I'm spelling all these things out as a method, but to hold yourself tall, hold, for the right hind is often good, nice, is good girl. Did you ask her to halt into the outer hind? Good. Yeah, and so you can, play with that idea and see what is necessary. Did it take a lot? Yep. Yeah, good. Now. So it's when that hind leg is bearing the weight. Good girl. Now, here's another thing I wanted to put on your tape. Say you're cantering and you're trying to show her that you can flex her and she walks, you can use that moment to do another test. And that's the third test of the outer hind. We didn't talk about that yet. But what it is similar to the second test of the inner hind, only it's the outer hind. So if the horse drops out of the canter, good morning, you can have her following with her forehand this line of travel. Say you stay on your circle, and she might not know this either because it's a bit of a more advanced question, but you would have the forehand on this line of travel, and you'd bring the haunches in, and you'd flex her out. So it's a natural thing. The horse flexes out, the haunches come in, and you can use your leg and your whip to put her haunches in on the circle while she walks on the lunge line circle that I show you, the one that we're walking on. So that's a nice correction if you're working on exercises where the horse is failing in the canter, and then you walk a few steps of the third test of the outer hind, and then you take the canter again. You set it up and you take the canter again.
So the third test, I am flexing her, and am I enlarging? Am I
engaging?
I'm engaging.
Engaging from your outer leg when the outer hind is in the air. Okay. Remember what I said? I know this is you'll have it on your tape, but the first and second test of the outer hind are when she's holding herself on the ground, and you're holding it with the inner rein, and you're holding her on the ground with the outer rein. And then the third test of the outer hind is when it's in the air and she's going to cross over. She's going to cross over underneath her body with her outer hind. And that's the same as on the second test of the inner hind, which we didn't push because we didn't know if she does lateral, that she should cross under with her inner hind.
Would that be kind of like an enlarge?
It would be engaging. So that's a good question.
Yes, it's going forward.
Yes.
But on a different path.
Yes, okay. Yes. And so so enlarging, the horse moves on a larger circumference of the circle, but the whole body goes out simultaneously. Yeah. Engaging, the forehand stays on that same circumference, but the haunches go to a larger one. And in the case of the third test of the outer hind, the forehand stays on that circumference, but the haunches come in on a smaller one. So there's a change in the body on how the forehand and the hindquarters travel. So I just give you that idea. I don't know if you can get her to do it. You could try, but it's a little harder with this on her head too. But I just wanted to show you that. Okay. So you want to try it? Sure. Okay. So walk on.
I'd like to try to figure out what am I feeling in the canter? Where am I at?
Yes. That's good. That's an exciting process, and we can do things without a lot of interference with her. I think that was the hardest thing, was the flexion in the first part of the last part of the canter. But for fun, just for the tape, if you want to try to flex her to the right, leave her forehand on the line, and use your whip on the right to put her haunches in. That would be the third test of the outer hind. So let her look right, that'll help her. It's a natural if she looks right that her haunches go left. Yes, you see? If you have her look to the outside, her haunches are going to go the other way. It's just the way the horse works. If you want the shoulder, yes, the head goes to the right, the croup goes to the left. That's a mild way of doing it, but it's okay as long as you get the concept. Okay, let's go ahead and go back to the setup of the canter, and you can do it in the walk or the trot, whatever your choice. It doesn't matter, but how was the enlarging?
She filled up the outside.
Sure, it was okay, but her shoulder went quicker than her hip. Okay. Just so you know. So you're learning it, and she did go sideways, but I'm just being a little bit picky because I want you to, yeah, that's better. That's better. Did you feel the difference? So together, okay, good girl. Nice. All right, so your front knee drops, left knee drops, that's the end of the canter stride. Whoop. It's okay. So organize, organize. Because even to take the depart is a gymnastic for the horse. It's a strengthening, and that's all good. But have her use her back, so when you enlarge the horse, you can flex her a little bit and help her use her back. You're a nice rider, just take the time to challenge her a little bit. That's good, that's good, nice. And so she moves away from the inner leg. She holds her outer hind to the ground. Nice, nice. And then you can quietly prepare, hold, and canter. All right, good. So don't even think about the, we'll just feel the left knee dropping. That's the end. The middle part is your seat rocks forward. Now, now, now. Do you feel that? That's the diagonal pair on the ground. Now.
When is the first one? Is it
Now,
now?
yep. Oh. It's hard because, it takes her cantering a lot. Should we go the other way again and let her canter the other way so she gets a little more change? Because I don't know how many circles she normally does either. So we'll just reverse. But she's so adorable. She's looking around like, is that the right thing I should be doing? Yes. Yeah, so they go fast, right?
Yeah.
So it's like this moment is pretty brief, but it's pretty punctuated because it's sort of boom, the end. The middle part is a longer part because you're sliding over that diagonal pair on the ground, That's when this hind leg and this forehand are bearing the weight, that takes you through the saddle. You rock forward.
So the rock forward is the second stage.
Yep. And then then the end is very brief.
Up in the
That's
air.
like, boop, it's like shorter than when she lands. It's a very, until you get the horse into better collection, it's a pretty quick moment.
Yeah.
So we'll let her, she's breathing a little fast, so we'll let her take a moment and we'll go the other way. What a good girl you are. You're such a smart horse. Yeah, so you got it. So now on a dressage horse, your goal is to be able to impact those moments with various influences, because really good dressage, which is the trunk of the tree we said, is improving the quality of the horse's gaits. Yeah. And a lot of people really don't care much about that anymore. They just want to ride the movements. They really don't care about the horse's gaits, but really at the core of good quality movements is a horse that's going well and in balance and can be active within those moments. So being able to touch all those moments of the canter takes a little practice for the horse. She's a great example of that because she really has a nice canter and she loves to canter. But the truth is, she's not sure what things mean, because if you touch her mouth, she's like, what's that meaning? Do you want me to walk? And it's no fault of hers or yours. It's just she never had that exposure that she should feel someone on her mouth at the moment when she's landing. Or other combinations that you could work on are diagonal. We say the canter is a diagonal gait. We like to connect the horse diagonally. And what we mean by that, and I can show you in the walk, because the walk is the sister gait to the canter. We can go through the diagonal connections and you can play with them on her, maybe not today, but I'll put them on your tape and you can have those to think about later when you're, on a trail ride and you might get a little stretch of canter where you can really think about things. Because our last goal of today is to, overdo something on her. So coming on your, I shouldn't say that's a goal at all. I just want her to, have fun here like you, but give you as much information as you care to absorb. Because I'm always excited when people care about these details. Not everybody does, and you're a very good student of the classical system because you're inquisitive about how these things fit together, and you have a nice feel for it. So we say that the walk is the sister gait to the canter because it's not like the trot. It's more like if you're going to say, walk, trot, canter, the two closer gaits are the canter and the walk, because there's no suspension, there are no united pairs in the walk, and there's just one united pair of legs in the canter. So, and so in the canter, I wanted to just introduce to you the concept. I'm just throwing a bunch of stuff at you, okay? If you were starting this horse and say she was in her early phase of training, you could start to introduce feelings to her like the inner leg connects to the outer rein in the canter. So that makes a nice harmony when the inner leg goes to the outer rein, you know, so that connection, inner leg, outer rein. So sometimes in the canter, during your seat rocks forward, there's a lot of time there you could say inner leg, outer rein, inner leg, outer rein. That's a really nice time to unite those two. So your inner leg really isn't doing more than just kind of feeling the side of her. You know, you're bringing that leg on, not steady, but in sort of a rhythm of her. And she's feeling your outer rein. Again, it's not a half halt, but it's on, off, on, off, on, off. And it might just be the slight closing of the fist. Then, so that's during the phase of the seat rocking forward. Then, when that mane flies up, that's a very brief moment. And again, I am not advocating that you do a lot, but you would do the outer leg with the inner rein, okay? And that would be outer leg, inner rein, outer leg, inner rein, outer leg, inner rein. And notice I'm doing it in threes, you know, for 3 strides. 3 strides one, 3 strides the other, that kind of thing. So they're very nuanced, but sometimes, if you get your timing right, you'll notice that the horse comes into a beautiful round canter with the rider's use of these combinations. When the horse learns to accept the feelings of these things, which they should, but sometimes it takes a little time to get the horse used to the rider doing these changes, these small, small changes. You know, sometimes they just break. So anyway, something to think about. Let's see if you can. Okay, let's go ahead, set her up. She's going to enlarge. Yeah, so this is why the old masters invented the first test of the outer hind, because you often need to pair the tests. Often you need to slow down the outer hind before you enlarge so she doesn't just scoot off into the trot or, you know, startle. So the preparation of slow down or hold the left hind to the ground and then enlarge often helps the horse not become overreactive to the enlarge question. So you could do outer hind slow, inner leg in, large, slow down, and go. Good girl. She's textbook. Excellent. Feel your right knee dropping. Your left leg can keep her in the canter. So the end of the phase is the inner knee dropping. The outer leg can feel the inner rein when her mane flies up. I kind of jumped around there. Sorry. And then when your seat rocks forward. Now, oops, sorry.
It's hard because it's like a big blur.
It is a big blur, isn't it? I probably threw too much at you. I'm sorry.
Because she's kind of running.
Yeah, she's running, and you know she's really working hard, and I don't want to overdo. But I did give you some ideas. Do you ride other horses besides her?
I do.
Okay.
And we will work on this.
Yes.
And we can pick it up next time.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. I am delighted to share this with you because I can tell you just like a sponge. You know, you really want to learn it, and your timing is excellent. Excellent. So it's always a pleasure to share. And you'll find, just like that depart, it works on every horse. There's not one horse in this universe that doesn't get it because it's aiding the horse to understand to lift. It's not a cue, and that's the difference. People cue their horses, and that could be anything. Ervig Rodnetter would say, I could bite my horse in the ear and it would take the canter. That's a cue, you know. But to aid the horse is to set the horse up and create a certain alignment that then lets the horse perform in the way you want. And so that's what you're learning here, and then you can use it on anything. So, excellent.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And if you have any questions, you can email me like, hey, this isn't working, or what was that again, or, you know, something that isn't clear. And another thing I offer to anybody who cares to do it, if you want to go through some concepts that you think you have, but you're not sure you have them right, you can just list out those bullet points and send them to me, and I'll read them over and go, she got that. I wouldn't say it that way. Or, if you missed something critical in that first, second, third test of the inner or outer hind, I can make a point of explaining that to you. So if you'd like, you can do that. Okay? Excellent. Good job. You're welcome. Thank you, Stella.